So we're all getting a free copy of Layla in 3.8. Let's cover everything you need to know in this 5-minute mega guide. Layla's one of the simplest characters in the game to understand in my opinion. A skill gives you a shield and has a mechanic where you can create 4 stars. You get 1 star for using a skill, 2 stars for using anyone else's skill, and once you have 4 stars they shoot off and deal cryo damage. Her burst constantly shoots out cryo missiles as well, and when they hit opponents they generate a star so that a skill can shoot out the stars. Basically she's going to be shitting out cryo. Layla has a lot of advantages and disadvantages. What I've done is I've put them in this graphic so you can pause the video and skim through them if you'd like. In terms of weapons, the Piss Sword is best for a shield strength, followed by Jade Cutter. Favonius Sword, the weapon I recommend until we get a 4-star HP sword, gives the team energy, which is nice because it gives her more utility, but it does mean you'll need to stack some crit rate on her where you could have gone for full HP with another option. Sacrificial Sword gives you the opportunity to refresh a shield more regularly if your team has the flexibility to switch into her when needed. Freedom Swarm's an option to give a team buffs, although I don't recommend it. Finally, if you're running her as an on-field DPS, which I don't recommend but you could feasibly do it if you're just looking to experiment, anything with crit will do the job. For her artifacts, 4-piece Tenacity gives a team shield strength and attack, with the condition that you have a shield up. 4-piece Noblesse gives a team attack if you can get a burst off regularly. 4-piece Blizzard and Freeze teams is the best for a DPS. 4-piece Pale Flame's an option if you want to use her as a physical DPS. I don't recommend it, but again, if you're looking to experiment, she can reliably trigger the 4-piece. 4-piece Gladiator works for a DPS build, or 4-piece Emblem for burst damage and uptime. Matching up 2 pieces works too, with it being 2 HP sets now with Tenacity and the Watermelon set. You could even use 2-piece Emblem for energy, mix and match 2 pieces for damage, or maybe even just disregard sets and go for any artifacts that have HP and energy recharge in the stats. So in terms of teams, you could technically put her in any with her having such a strong shield, but let's look at some she has a lot of synergy with. Freeze is effective, and Ayato, Yelan, Rosaria and Layla is a strong one. The Hydro Resonance will give extra HP, which Ayato, Yelan and Layla all benefit from, and the Cryo Resonance gives crit rate. You could swap in Xingqiu, Sucrose or Kazuha too. You could even swap in an Anemo DPS like Scaramouche with Xingqiu or Yelan in there. Given the fact Scaramouche needs a shield, Layla synergizes well with him, and his passive talent will let him stay in the air longer because of a Hydro, as well as giving him extra crit rate from the Cryo. With his going into the Hydro region of Fontaine, I imagine there'll be a lot of new Hydro characters for Layla to synergize with. Mono Cryo has some options too. While you could technically run her with Ayaka, I feel like Diona synergizes with her better as a battery, so instead of Ayaka, we'll go with Kaya. This way you're spamming everyone's skills and getting more of those stars from Layla's skill. If you don't care about the stars from Layla's skill, you could swap Kaya out for Ganyu. If you have her, you could even swap Shenhe in for one of Rosaria or Kazuha. Then Superconduct's another option. You'll want Electro, so let's go with Razor, as well as Fischl for some energy. We'll put Yunjin in there to increase Razor's normal attack damage. If you wanted the Cryo Resonance back, you could swap Yunjin out for Rosaria, especially if you have a C6 which shreds the opponent's physical resistance. Kazuha or Sucrose are options again to buff Fischl's damage as well as Razor's burst, or you could even go for a Dendro unit like Nahida. She'll give the team quicken while not reacting with Layla's Cryo, so you'll retain Superconduct too. And a burst gives the on-field character Elemental Mastery, which Razor will benefit from in a quicken setup. If you don't have Nahida, then Dendro MC works, and they'll give Elemental Mastery from the passive as well as Electro damage from the C6. Speaking of Dendro, you could run Layla in a Hyperfridge team. Hyperfridge being when you mix Hyper Bloom and Freeze into one team. There are questions over whether or not it's necessary to have a healer and a shield character, but for content where you have enough damage but not enough comfort, it's useful. I don't advise this next one from a meta perspective, but if you did want to experiment, you could run it in this team as the on-field Cryo DPS, with the option to swap out Xingqiu for Kazuha if you have him. If you want to run it as a physical DPS, then something like this would work, or you could swap out Yunjin for another damage dealer like Yae or Beidou. Lise is an option too, with the Defense Shred and the Thrilling Tales buff. Just keep an eye on her energy. I found Layla actually synergizes with this Itto team really well if you don't have Zhongli. Favonius Sword on her will give the team more energy, and because she's constantly applying Cryo, she'll give the team Crystallized Shields, which synergizes well with Goro C2. Overall, she's a solid character at C0. A little too reliant on her skill uptime for my liking, but a good addition to your account if you don't have a strong shielder. Check out my Layla Teams guide if you haven't already for gameplay of her different teams. I'm also going to be doing a Kaya video over the next few days so you can have fun with that new skin, as well as a Fontaine preparation guide. Subscribe to the channel if you're interested in them, and take it easy.